Here are the top 30 vehicles GM ever made. Chevrolet Cameo Pickup. An interesting and influential model introduced in 1958 as part of the Task Force generation was the Chevrolet Cameo. This was the first fleet-side truck, and the construction was revolutionary in many ways. First, the truck bed looked more elegant and flush with the lines of the cabin and the whole design of the truck. Second, the fleet-side design allowed for the maximum width of the truck bed, making the truck more capable of carrying a wider load. Third, it had an innovative construction that was more durable and stronger than before. The first model featuring this construction solution was the Chevrolet Cameo, but it wasn't successful at first. The Cameo was an upscale version of the standard Chevy truck. It featured a V8 engine, better equipment, and a higher price. Some earlier versions even featured the fleet-side bed consisting of fiberglass, not steel. Chevrolet discontinued the Cameo as a model in 1958, but the fleet-side style continues to this day. Soon it was accepted by all truck manufacturers. Chevrolet Impala. Introduced in 1958 as the top-of-the-line trim on full-size Chevrolet models, the Impala is one of the most legendary car nameplates. For decades, it was synonymous with big four-door sedans, and even today, Impala is a classic sedan with lots of space and power. Despite the fact that SUVs have killed sedans, the Impala is still on the market. GM sold over 14 million of them, which is an extraordinary achievement. Over the years, the Impala traveled from a top-of-the-line model to a base full-size sedan. It was a muscle car with the legendary SS version, a NASCAR racer, and a police cruiser, too. It endured all the recessions and market changes and is still going strong. 1959 Cadillac. No list of best General Motors models can be without the legendary 1959 Cadillac. This car represents so many great things about GM and the classic American cars that were a landmark moment in design and technology. First, the design of the 1959 model year saw Cadillac's most noticeable feature, chrome fins that went to ridiculous heights. Second, the technology, as Cadillac improved the mechanical layout with an updated suspension and other components. Also, it had a 6.4-liter V8 engine producing up to 320 horsepower. The 1959 Cadillac sold in a staggering 142,000 units, which is respectable even by today's standards. Cadillac sold several models, including the El Dorado and Fleetwood limousine. They even offered a naked chassis with engines for commercial users like ambulances and hearses. Thanks to its timeless design, amazing power, and quality, the 1959 Cadillac is one of the landmark American cars of all time. Pontiac GTO. The Pontiac GTO was not the first muscle car or American performance model. However, it was the first affordable mid-size, V8-powered, and aggressively marketed car. It set the template for all other models, regardless of their model year, body style, or drivetrain. It is safe to say that the GTO created muscle cars as a segment and a cultural phenomenon. Pontiac produced the GTO between 1964 and 1974, and briefly from 2004 to 2006. It was always a great performance buy and a recognizable sight on the streets. With its signature styling details, aggressive stance, and sleek silhouette, the GTO was among the finest-looking cars of the era. Despite the fact that Pontiac as a brand is dead, the GTO nameplate will live on forever. Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. In 1963, just 10 years after the introduction of the original Corvette, Chevrolet introduced the second generation. Since the Corvette was an established sports car contender and a halo car for GM, lots of effort and money went into the research and development of the second generation. With a new platform, independent rear suspension, engines, and most importantly, a stunning new body, the 1963 Corvette was one of the best-looking cars of the 60s. The Corvette Stingray got its name from GM's 1961 Stingray concept and a visual resemblance to a Stingray. With closed headlights, split rear window, bulged fenders, and round cabin, the Stingray was one of the most fascinating examples of the famed Googie design language. It came with fuel injection and a 327 cubic inch V8 engine with 4 power levels, 250, 300, 340, and 360 horsepower. Cadillac V16. In the early days of motoring, V8 engines were a novelty, so just a few brands produced these engines. Most luxury models had straight 8 power plants with a lot of torque and were smooth-running units. Cadillac decided to introduce a new V16 engine, the first of its kind in the world. They wanted to deliver performance and power on a whole new level. The Cadillac V16 had a displacement of 452 cubic inch, 7.4 liters, and produced 185 horsepower. Despite its relatively small power figures, this engine delivered unmatched torque, smoothness, and effortless acceleration. Unfortunately, the timing of the V16's introduction couldn't have been worse. Soon, the stock market crashed, and the Great Depression started just a few months before they offered the V16 for sale. However, the qualities of the V16 found their way to the buyers. In 1940, when they stopped production, Cadillac had built more than 4,000 of those magnificent machines. The V16 was available in all body styles and often produced by specialized body shops that personalized it according to the wishes of the buyer. Chevrolet C31 Ton DY. Officially, this truck is part of the third-generation CK model. However, it's so important it needs to be on this list. Chevrolet introduced it in 1973 as a part of a big Chevrolet push on the global truck market. The C31 Ton DY was the first crew cab dually they offered for sale and arguably the first heavy-duty truck ever. Today, most car manufacturers produce heavy-duty trucks in various configurations. But back then, nobody offered a dual model with space for 6 passengers, heavy-duty components, and a long bed. In 1973, when Chevrolet offered the C31 Ton DY, it soon became popular and influential. They equipped it with Chevrolet's biggest gasoline 454 V8 and a 4-speed transmission, but an automatic was also available. Oldsmobile Toronado. Today's driving enthusiasts may not remember Oldsmobile since they retired the brand in 2000. But back in the 1960s, this company enjoyed a reputation for inventive technology, style, and luxury. Oldsmobile represented the cutting edge of GM at one point, presenting models that were far ahead of their time. Soon, they displayed power and style on the global market. One such car is the Oldsmobile Toronado from 1966. This was a big, powerful personal luxury coupe with a twist, since it came with front-wheel drive. In those days, only a few imports had front-wheel drive, while all domestic cars were rear-wheel drive. However, Oldsmobile wanted to introduce something different, so they constructed an ingenious front-wheel drive system. Designers drew a fantastic-looking shape with a low roof and hidden headlights, while the power came from a big block 455 V8, producing 385 horsepower. Cadillac El Dorado, 1976. The 1976 El Dorado was an automotive dinosaur in many ways. It was the last Cadillac they produced with the enormous 500 cubic inch V8 engine, one of the biggest car engines GM ever made. It was the last Cadillac convertible for over 10 years since the late 1970s, when restrictive safety laws almost killed the convertible class. Also, it was the last of the truly big land yacht that dominated the domestic car industry in the 1970s. During the production of this generation of the El Dorado, it was obvious the industry was changing. Cadillac had to rethink their strategy to stay on top of the game. However, the glorious 1976 El Dorado was the perfect way to end an era of monstrous engines, soft rides, and plush interiors. Pontiac Trans Am Special Edition. The late 70s were sad times for muscle cars. All the available models had diminutive horsepower ratings and heavy bodies that made their performance embarrassingly slow. The Firebird Trans Am range could not escape this as well. However, Pontiac still managed to produce some memorable cars through its special edition models. They simply dressed up the Trans Am to transform it into a street icon. The main model was the Trans Am they equipped either with a 4.9-liter turbo engine or 400 NA V8. However, neither of those power plants produced more than 220 horsepower during the 1977 to 1981 production run. The main aspect was the design with its signature graphics and appearance package, affectionately called the Screaming Chicken. Due to a highly stylized flaming bird logo on the hood, it was extraordinarily modern and hip by standards of the day. It started as a relatively small sticker in the middle of the hood in the early 70s, only to grow to a big sticker covering the entire hood. Soon, it found its way to the B-pillars, rear end, and front fenders. The 1977 and 78 Firebird Trans Am gained international fame by appearing in the cult movie Smokey and the Bandit. That helped triple the sales numbers, turning the Trans Am into a movie legend as well as a muscle car icon.